Most advertisers only use a small fraction of the settings inside meta ads, which means they're leaving money on the table. So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 hidden meta ad settings that you absolutely need to know about if you want to lower costs, boost return on ad spend, and get your campaigns performing at a higher level. I bet there's at least one in here that you've never used before. So the first setting I want to talk about is ad scheduling, which most meta advertisers don't even know about because it's hidden behind lifetime budgets. Let me show you how this works and why it might be really valuable for your business. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to create a quick campaign. I'm going to use a leads campaign in this instance. What the ad scheduling feature, that setting does apply. You can use it with other campaign objectives as well, but I think it's more likely you would use it with leads. I'll explain why in a second. Then in the campaign level, we've obviously got our budget, default being campaign budget, and the default option here is daily budget. But if we go ahead and change this to lifetime budget, and then click on show more settings, we've got this ad set scheduling feature. If I go ahead and click edit on this, the default again is deliver ads at all times, but what we can do is select set a schedule for ads. Now we do that within each individual ad set, even though we've set this part up at the campaign level. Something you really need to know about to be able to navigate and find. Now, if we jump to the ad set level and we scroll down to the budget and schedule section, and then once again, we click on show more settings, and then we've got this ad set scheduling option, run ads on a schedule. Go ahead and click that. And you can now see here, we can set a schedule for our ads. So we can say to Meta, look, I only want my ads to run at certain times of the day, certain days of the week, because that's best for my business. You have to do, as you've just seen, quite a lot of clicking to find this. This is quite hidden. And by default, Meta doesn't want us to use this, and I can understand why, but for certain businesses, this is an absolute game changer. So a classic use case for this feature would be, let's say you're a business that operates in a B2B capacity and you really want to generate leads from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, because you know that when a lead contacts you during those times, during those days, you can get back to them really quickly. We know that speed to lead is really important. It makes it much more likely that you'll get in contact with your lead, which obviously makes it more likely that you'll then be able to convert them, and that's the whole point of you running your ads in the first place. A lead that comes in at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, probably not going to be anywhere near as good a quality lead as one that comes in at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday for businesses like that. So in that scenario, what you can very simply do is you can just select 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you can literally, I've kind of messed it up there, but you can drag across like that, and you can drag across Monday to Friday like that. You could have a completely different schedule. You could say, no, actually, my business is the complete opposite. I only want to run on weekends. Or you can say, I only want to run every day from 9 to 9, something like that. This is very much going to depend on your business and what's important. Now, the reason why you might be more likely to use this with the leads campaign objective is that if you're running, say, a sales campaign, a sale where someone comes through and purchases $100 worth of stuff from your e-commerce store, for example, at 2 a.m. on a Saturday is just as valuable as someone who does it at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. Not the case with leads. Meta's optimizing for leads. In Meta's eyes, a lead is equally valuable no matter when they're generated, but you might know for your business going, no. We see this as significantly more valuable a lead that's generated at this time as opposed to others. If you're using other campaign objectives, you can't optimize for conversion-based optimization, so you can't go with leads or sales, you've got to go with traffic or something like that, because you can't have optimization based on a conversion event you can't track. Very important that you think about schedules and making sure that your ads are delivered at people when they are going to matter more, when they're more likely to take the action that you want them to take, not just what Meta's able to optimize for. So a really good one to start with. For some businesses, this can double or more your return on ad spend. Instead of advertising all the time, go in and change your schedule, more likely to be lead based. If you think this might apply to your business, give it a go and let me know how it performs. Hidden meta ad setting number 2 is combine social proof. Really good setting. You definitely want to make sure you've got it turned on. So let me show you what this looks like and how it works. I'm going to come out of the campaign creation process here. And then just if I hover over all tools, I've got this advertising settings. That's where you want to go. If it's not up here in that short list, you'll be able to click on this and find it from the broader menu. But if I click on advertising settings and then I scroll down, most ad accounts now have this social information option. And you can see it says here, control how Meta shows social information such as likes, follows, and other engagement on your ads. If I click into this, you can read this part, which is very interesting. combine likes and reactions for similar ads. We will combine the likes and reactions across multiple ads if the text and images in those ads are the same or similar. And then it's already selected here, and you absolutely want to make sure you have this turned on. Allow Meta to combine likes and reactions for similar ads. Now we know that social proof, likes, reactions, etc., it is a credibility indicator. If an ad is served to someone and it's got a couple of likes on it, it won't perform as well as if it's got 300 likes on it, because people look at that and they go, okay, yeah, this company looks legit, it's of a certain size, people are engaging, other people are clearly interested in this, maybe I should be too. So we know that it's important. And we also know that the way Meta Ads has gone is that a lot of us are testing lots of different variations of quite similar ads. We're advertising the same thing, but we're testing different imagery, we're testing different headlines, different primary text, and it's just not as good a look to have two ads on one, 2 likes on one and 4 likes on another and nothing on another. Much better that all those ads display all that social proof combined. It's going to pack more of a punch. Really easy to just come in and turn this on, but something that you do need to know about. So make sure you go ahead and check it, and your ads certainly won't perform any worse and are likely to get a little bump in performance. The third setting I want to talk about is value rules, which isn't technically a hidden setting, but very few Meta advertisers know about it, even less are actually using it, and it can make a massive difference to your results if used well and if appropriate for your business. So let's have a quick look at this setting. So if I jump back into my campaign creation window, and then we're going to go ahead and jump in at the ad set level. That's where value rules are located beneath this top stuff here. If you see warnings like this, by the way, pop up, it's just because it's an example ad account. I don't have everything set up as I normally would, but I use this for demonstration purposes. And then we get to this option here, value rules. And I'll read the description because it helps explain what this is. So create rules to tell us how much more certain audiences, placements, and conversion locations are worth to your business. Our system will optimize for outcomes based on these rules. So we can go ahead and click here, apply a rule set. You can see it's defaulted here to women 35 plus because I've created a rule set before when I've talked about this in the past, but I'm going to demonstrate how this plays. If you haven't already created any rule sets for value rules, then this won't come up, but you can go through this process, create a rule set. So what we're basically saying to Meta is, certain groups of people within my target audience are worth more than others. So I used a classic example previously about, it's based on a conversation I had with someone who owned a e-commerce jewelry store. And he said that female purchasers were worth more than male purchasers because in their experience, male purchasers were buying a gift, they mostly sell women's jewelry, and they would likely just be the one transaction. Whereas a female purchaser was probably more likely to be buying something for herself, and therefore she was more likely to come back and buy again and again. So if Meta's just optimizing for those two sales, even if it's optimizing based on value, so based on maximizing return on ad spend, which is typically what we'd recommend, they would see the one purchase from a man versus the one purchase from a woman and be like, well, as long as I spend the same amount, these are equally valuable. But the business knows, no, these aren't equally valuable for my business. The female purchaser is worth more because they're more likely to come back. In fact, let's have a look at the criteria so you can see how you might be able to distinguish between higher value and lower value customers for your business. And again, value rules can apply to multiple different campaign types. By the way, I've used a sort of a more e-commerce example, but this absolutely could apply to leads, might even be more powerful with leads for the same reason as the ad scheduling option. There might be big variance between values, okay? So how could we delineate between high value and low value customers, leads, etc.? So conversion location. So we could say that someone who comes through to our website and becomes a lead is more valuable than someone who comes through an instant form, for example, or through a messaging app. Age is a classic one, particularly for lead-based businesses. A lot of businesses that generate leads will see higher conversion rates from different age ranges. Gender, I've already talked about that as an example. Device platform, so you might be able to see in your data that people that come through on desktop are more valuable than mobile, or vice versa, and you can select accordingly. Mobile operating system. Location is a really interesting one. I know this affects a lot of businesses that operate in different markets. We're like, okay, a lead in this part of the country is far less likely to be a high value customer than a lead in this part of the country. Could be based on whether or not you can serve them as well, or just simply what wealth there is in that area versus other areas. And then you can do placements as well. So you can choose specific placements. So is Instagram feed an interaction on Instagram feed more valuable, people more valuable there than come through stories, etc., etc. And you can dig into all the data to work these out. I'm not going to demonstrate every single one, but let's go with age, for example, because that's a classic one. So I've spoken to lots of businesses, particularly lead-based, that might say something like, you know what, people who come through who are 45 to 55 are our sweet spot. We're way more likely to convert those people than we are people younger, for example, or potentially older as well. So you can come in and you can select an age range, right? We want to specifically target these people. And you could add in multiple criteria, right? So I can add in age. I could say, yeah, age, and they have to come through a certain place or be in a specific location. So you can add in multiple criteria should you want to. And then what you're effectively saying to Meta is you're like, look, because these people are more valuable than other people within my target market, please increase my bid by a certain percentage so that you weight my ad spend more towards those people. Basically, you're saying is, I want to spend more on these groups. I'm okay with paying more to put ads in front of them, potentially paying more per sale, paying more per lead, whatever it is you're optimizing for. So you can say increase bid. You can actually do it the other way around. You can decrease, but increase bid by, say, the default here is 50%. Now that may or may not be right for your business. This is where it's really important to know your numbers. You would want to know, well, how much more are 45 to 54-year-olds worth? How much more likely are they to convert? You know what? They are 30% more likely to convert, therefore we'll increase the bid by 30%. Or they are 70% or more likely to convert, therefore we'll increase the bid by 70%. Really need to know your numbers for that. So rule name, we could have 45 by 54. That's pretty straightforward. And then we can go ahead and click next. Rule set name, 45 to 54. Works for me. Go ahead and add that in, and then we apply the rule set, come back into the ad set level as we've done by default, and we've already got one there that was women 35 that I talked about previously, and we've just gone and created this 45 to 54 one, but like we talked about, you could create different rule sets. And if you're finding that Meta isn't optimizing correctly for what really matters to your business, which I hear is a complaint often, they'd be like, I know the whole thing to do with Meta ads nowadays is just let Meta crack on with it, but I just find that they put ads in front of people that aren't our right target audience. They're advertising to people who are too young or too old. They're advertising to people here when that's not quite right. Or they're putting ads in front of men far more than they should be. In those scenarios, you can come in and affect it with value rules. So really powerful, have a play, and you might need to adjust it a few times. You might adjust it and be like, not quite right, not sure this is what we want. But if you can get this right, this can really help improve performance. Just be aware that you will probably end up paying more in terms of cost per result from your target group. But that's basically what you're saying to Meta, is we are willing to do that because net, we're going to be better off. Now, I've got some other very interesting Meta ad settings to tell you about, but first I want to quickly let you know about my Meta Ads mentorship program, which gives you all the support you need to get the best possible results from your Facebook and Instagram ads. And included in my mentorship program is exclusive educational material, unlimited one-to-one support, daily live calls, Q&As, etc. from me and my expert team members. And basically, we give you everything you need, all the support you need to get the best possible results for your specific situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all course. It's very much tailored to the individual business because individual businesses need individual solutions. If that sounds interesting, there is a link in the description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website and book in a free, no obligation call where we'll tell you if we think we'll be able to help you to start with, but also how it works and all that stuff. So if that sounds interesting, go ahead and do that, and hopefully we get a chance to work together very soon. The next hidden Meta ad setting I want to talk about is a full ads targeting override. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So actually, let's get out of our leads campaign. Let's go ahead and create a sales campaign. What I'm about to show you can apply to multiple different campaign objectives as well, like the previous one. So don't worry about that, but I just want to mix it up slightly. Now, if we go to the ad set level, and we scroll down to the audience, the targeting sections where we've got these controls and then suggest an audience. Advertisers become very used to the default way of doing things, which is to basically you enter in all your targeting options at the controls level, and those are hard boundaries. So only target, in this case, people in the United Kingdom, and there are some other options here. But then anything we add in here in suggest an audience is totally up to Meta whether they pay any attention to it or not. So for example, we can go ahead and add in an age range, and Meta can choose to ignore it or choose to go ahead with it. Same with genders, etc., etc. You can still change that, right? If you really want to get more specific with your targeting. Now to do so, you need to click on this option here, further limit the reach of your ads. And you can see that Meta is very much trying to dissuade us from doing that. I think with good reason, because most of the time, most businesses want to leave things open. Meta's AI is going to do a better job in many instances of finding the people you want to target than you are, but there are of course scenarios where you want to take manual control. So if we click on further limit the reach, again, you'll see Meta's gonna try and dissuade us from doing that. Potential outcome in the current setup, 7.2% lower cost per result. Switch setup. Now, once you click on switch setup, this is much more similar to the previous way of meta ads targeting, where what we're entering in here can be hard constraints. So let me show you an example. So locations is in either setting. So we'll start with age. Now, if we say, look, I really don't want to be advertising to people 18 plus. Our audience is only realistically 30 plus. If you select a more specific age range, we've still got this option here, user suggestion. Now, this will operate as the standard default setup where it suggests an audience, but we can deselect this and we can say to Meta, no, don't use this targeting criteria as a suggestion. I want this to be a hard boundary, as in do not put my ads in front of people that are under 30. That's just a waste of our budget. We can do the same with gender. So we can say, look, we only want to advertise to men, and again, deselect as a suggestion. So we can start to get much more specific. In this case, I'm only advertising to men, only men that are 30 plus. We can do the same with custom audiences. So in the standard setup now, when you add in a custom audience, let's say people have visited your website before, Meta will put ads in front of those people, but they'll also put ads in front of people that haven't visited your website that it believes might be likely to take your desired outcome. In some instances, you want to be more strict and be like, no. This is a specific offer for people that have already taken a specific action with my business. Let's say they've downloaded a lead magnet and you want to advertise your upsell. And you only want to advertise to people who have already downloaded your lead magnet. And you go, okay, I only want to do that. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and add in an email list. I've got an example email list. I said this is an example ad account. An example email list into my, as my custom audience in here, only advertise to those people. Again, you can see we've got user suggestion. If you make sure that's unselected, then that's how that'll operate. And then we've got this detailed targeting section. This is the only one where we cannot remove the suggestion criteria. So if you add in, so let's say we add in something like social media marketing, say we wanted to advertise people in that space, there's no option to remove this as a suggestion. Look, detailed targeting inclusions are always suggestions with the current campaign settings you've selected. So it doesn't work, this further limit your reach in your ads and going back to this setup with detailed targeting, but it does with those other targeting criteria. A word of caution, be careful doing this. You can easily hurt your results and give Meta's delivery system far less flexibility. But there are use cases where, like I said previously, Meta isn't doing what you want them to do. They aren't putting your ads in front of the right people. They are advertising to people that are the wrong age or the wrong gender too much, spending too much of your budget on people that you just don't want to be spending to reach because they're unlikely to become customers of yours. More of an issue with lead-based campaigns again, where that's what Meta's optimizing for. If they're optimizing for a sale, less likely to be a problem, but you can still have instances. We talked about the jewelry example with value rules. This could potentially be another way of impacting that. And then one of the big ones is custom audiences, because I think there's a lot of confusion with the current standard setup when it comes to targeting, that they add in their warm audiences and think, oh, this is a retargeting ad set. And you go, not really, it's a both ad set. Unless you come into this part, you click on further limit the reach of your ads, and then you set this up, Meta's going to put your ads in front of warm audiences. They're also going to put your ads in front of cold audiences as well. Whereas you do it this way, it's only going to be put in front of your warm audiences. Again, Meta's going to give you all sorts of warnings. By not using Advantage Plus Audience, which basically is what we've done by removing the suggestion options, you get 42% lower cost per result if we switch back to the other way. And that might be true across the board, on average across all advertisers, but maybe in your circumstance you're thinking, you know what, I think this is going to be better for me and my business, so I'm going to go with this option. So a good one to know about. We don't use it a ton, but when we do need to use it, very happy that it is there because it can make a big difference. Hidden meta ad setting number 5 is around specific placement selection. So we jump back into our example ad account. I can actually stay in this ad set and just scroll down and we get to this placement section. Now it used to be really obvious that you could choose between automatic placements, which is basically all of them, or manual placements. Now you sort of need to do a little bit more digging to be more specific with placements. What Meta is going to do by default is show ads everywhere and do so in a way that's likely to get more of your desired outcome. So whatever you set up as your performance goal, I want more sales, I want more leads, I want more reach, I want more link clicks, Meta's going to put your ads in the places where you are more likely to get those actions. You can still have control over that though. You can still say, no, actually, I only want you to put my ads in these placements. So the way you do this now is by clicking on Show More Settings, and then down here, we've got this placement controls option. If we click in here, you can see the various placements. Placements, by the way, refers to the locations where your ads can be shown. So we've obviously got feeds on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, etc. Stories and Reels, like lots of different options, okay? And actually you can go one step further and just get rid of whole platforms. You're like, oh no, I only want to advertise on Instagram, so let's go ahead and, delete everything else out. You can do that should you want to. A common option would be to leave everything in except for, say, Audience Network, because Audience Network tends to be the lowest quality traffic available, the lowest quality ad impressions. So once you've selected these, you can still then come in and say, I'm happy to advertise on feeds, but don't want to advertise on stories and reels. I don't know why you would do that specifically, but you can if you want to. So what's my recommendation around this and what should you do here? I think that if you are running a campaign, a conversion-based campaign objective, leads, sales, where Meta is optimizing for what you really want, and you're able to do that, then great, go ahead and use Advantage plus placements, which basically means don't mess with this hidden setting, let Meta do its thing. If, however, you are using a different type of campaign objective, so you're using, say, awareness and you're optimizing, your performance goal is maximize reach, or you're using traffic and your performance goal is maximize number of link clicks, for example, and there are many instances where you might want to do that. So with the reach option, we might be doing that with our omnipresent content campaign. Or with the traffic option, perhaps you cannot track sales because you're using a third-party platform where you're sending traffic to from your Meta ads, and you can't install a pixel and work out easily who converts and feed that data back in. So you have to go with traffic. Same might apply to leads if you're using some sort of third-party software. So in that scenario, I think it's very important that you do come in and you do manually adjust placements, because what you can otherwise end up happening. So let me give you an example. We got rid of Audience Network, and that is basically what I'd recommend you do if you're in those scenarios. Audience Network tends to be the lowest quality traffic, the lowest quality ad impression. If you leave it on and you're, say, optimizing for get as much reach as possible, or even get as many link clicks as possible, well, Meta's going to put a lot of your ads there because they will get a lot of reach and they'll get a lot of link clicks more than other places because it's cheap. It's cheap because it's lower quality, and the sales campaigns and the lead campaigns, those ads are being put in other locations that are more likely to lead to a lead or sale. And you sort of get left with the cheap stuff that just doesn't perform well for your business, because you're not just generating a link click for the sake of a link click. You want them to go on and do something after they've clicked. You're not just generating reach for the sake of a reach number. You want that ad to have an impression on the user. That's the whole point of putting it in front of the first place. So absolutely come in and mess with this if you are not using a conversion-based campaign objective and have a performance goal set up that is maximizing that conversion event or a return on ad spend or something that's the end outcome. If you have to go with a intermediary step, like a link click, or maybe just even impressions, then come in and edit this as I've described. You can choose to get more specific if you dig into the data and you're like, we see, you can see I've got rid of Audience Network and apps and sites is gone, for example. And you're like, we see that for some reason, weirdly, our Facebook feed leads generated aren't as good as Instagram feed, and therefore we're going to go ahead and remove that. But you can do that should you want to. Typically wouldn't, but that is also an option. And that would be a case-by-case basis depending on the data you see in your ad account. Hyros is the best tracking and attribution software for Meta ads. It's the software all the big players in this industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads, as well as all my organic results as well. So if someone books a call for our done-for-you services, for example, I can see exactly where that person came from with a lot of accuracy. That allows me to make better decisions for my marketing and my business. Hyros has been able to track that from our ad spend in this campaign, we've generated £96,000, but £58,000 of that was not reported by Meta. So if I was just looking at my data within my Meta ad account, I might come to the conclusion that this campaign is doing okay, but in reality, this campaign is doing a lot better. Now, this is a relatively extreme example because of the nature of our business. So most of our products, services have recurring billing elements. Meta might be able to see what we make initially from our ad spend on that initial transaction, but not those subsequent payments. And that's why it shows the importance here of being able to accurately see what did we actually get from our ad spend in order to be able to make better decisions and optimize correctly. So if you want to improve the performance of your ad campaigns without having to touch your ads, go ahead and sign up to Hyros. There is a link in the video description. Meta ad setting number 6 is optimize text per person. Now this is a setting at the ad level. So let's go ahead and have a look at what this looks like. Let's jump into this campaign and go ahead and have a look at the ad level. Now actually, in order for this to show up, it's based on the copy that we've got within our ad. So I'm actually going to need to quickly enter in some example copy into this ad just to demonstrate it. So if I just run through this setup creative option, I'm going to skip through everything. You don't need to worry about this. Normally I would set it up properly. I have videos on all this sort of stuff. I just need to get to this window here where I can add in example text and example headline. If you want more info on all of this stuff, I have it. Skip this image generation. We'll be creating a video on that soon, and I'm going to talk about skip the enhancements as well. Now once we've got that text added in, primary text, headline, etc., we've got this optimized text per person, and we can see it's enabled here. And this is enabled because in this ad account we've opted in to standard enhancements. A lot of advertisers haven't. So if you don't have that, then this won't be enabled necessarily by default. But if you do have this enabled, which is what I'd recommend the majority of the time, it says, because you've opted to standard enhancements, text you provide may appear in any location of your ad and may appear with other text you provided. The more options you give us, the better we can personalize your ad to each person. So we can see here we've got primary text, headline, description, and what Meta's basically saying is with this enabled, Meta can move those around. So it could take that headline, use it as a primary text, except, and then vice versa, and on all sorts, right? They have also talked about, in order to get the most out of this setting, you would want to add in multiple primary text options. So we can add up to 5. If I click on this, you can see we can add a bunch of other options. The same with headlines, add in a bunch of headline options, which is certainly something that I would recommend anyway, because it gives your ad a greater chance of succeeding because you're more likely to get headline primary text that land, and then you can add in description stuff in here as well. Now, one of the interesting things about this is this isn't as Meta Ads optimization features used to be, where Meta's going, what we'll do is we'll work out the best combination and we'll use that for everyone. We'll work out the best combination on average. What does the average person respond best to? This is more sophisticated than that. This is saying we're going to work out the best combination for each person. So different people will see different combinations of text. They might see 2 headlines, one in the primary text, one in the headline, because they think that will perform better. And again, this is going to vary massively depending on placement. They might see completely different to someone else who wants a long form primary text versus someone else who responds better to a short form primary text. So a clever feature, and like you said, enabled by default if you've got standard enhancements opted in. If you don't, then you want to make sure that you've got this turned on. Again, very unlikely to hurt performance, can create a nice little boost. The one caveat to this potentially, well, there are a few, but the main one here is if you're in a heavily regulated industry when it comes to what you can and can't say with advertising. And it might be that having things moved around and not necessarily in order could get you in some trouble potentially with regulators in your space. If that's the case, then you might want to make sure that you steer clear of this, but otherwise a good one to go ahead and use. And hidden meta ad setting number 7, I've probably saved the best till last, is automated rules. So let me show you how this works and why they can be super valuable for your business. Okay, so we're obviously back in our example ad account in our campaign creation window. And what you can do from here is click on this little more with the down arrow. And then we've got this option here called automated rules. And we can go ahead and click on create new rule. We've got custom rule, that's fine. Go ahead and click next. So automated rules allow you to make changes to your meta ad campaigns in an automated fashion, which can be really, really valuable for a few reasons. Firstly, if you've got loads of campaigns and adjusting them constantly manually is just near on impossible. I've definitely seen ad accounts like that. Secondly, I found that automated rules can help advertisers who can't help themselves but tinker with their ad campaigns too much. Things go well, so they scale too fast, or things go badly and they turn it off. Or if you set up rules ahead of time and say, like, I'm going to leave this to happen for Meta to do this, based on the criteria that I've set, but Meta to do this, it might stop me getting in the way. It's almost like that classic thing of people with their investing is that, you know, I'm just going to hand my money over to like an index fund or something and not worry about it. I'm not going to try and invest in individual stocks and then buy and sell and do all these crazy things and probably lose money by doing so. It's kind of that. It's helping advertisers overcome let's say an overly active trigger finger when it comes to adjustments. So let me show you how this works, right? So firstly, we've got the rule, apply rule 2. And here we can do all active campaigns or active ads or active ad sets. Had we selected down here one of the campaigns and then come in, then it could have applied to just that campaign or ad set specifically. So you can get more specific should you want to. So we decide what we want to apply the rule to. I'm going to leave it all active campaigns. And then we can say, I want new Meta to take this action based on the criteria we're about to set. So turn off a campaign, turn on a campaign, increase daily budget by, decrease daily budget by, and then we've got the same for lifetime budgets, and we can do send notification only, but that's fine. So let's say we wanted to increase daily budget by, let's go with 3%, all right? Now, we can set a maximum daily budget cap, because if Meta's increasing our budget by 3% based on certain criteria being met, if you were to just leave that indefinitely, you could end up spending a really scary amount. So you're like, no, I never want to spend more than $1,000 a day, for example. Or in this case, it's pounds, it's GBP there. But work that out for your business. You can leave that blank, up to you. Action frequency. How often do we want the daily budget to be increased by if we meet certain criteria? We'll get to criteria in a second. I think every 12 hours is probably a little bit too frequent for an increased daily budget. I'd probably prefer more like once daily, but that could be up to you. You can see there are other options. Once weekly, once bi-weekly. You can slow that down or really speed it up. You could be scaling something like a 3% every hour. By the way, when you're gonna have automated rules and you're increasing or decreasing daily budget, then don't go crazy with this percentage. Don't put that at 30% once daily. Like you're gonna scale too fast and break your campaigns. And then, okay, what conditions need to be met? So for us to scale the budget by 3% every day, or once daily if the condition is met. What is the condition? So we've obviously got cost per result. We can have lots of other different metrics. We can have based on a return on ad spend. So if return on ad spend is above a certain number, please spend more. Even things like frequency, like, okay, we think we're getting ad fatigue. If our frequency gets above a 3, then go ahead and decrease the budget or turn this ad off. So you can create lots of different rules to do all sorts of clever things in an automated fashion. If we get beyond a certain spend point, turn this off. Cost per result would be the standard option. So if our cost per result, in this case, because we want to scale, we want to set an upper limit. So we want to say cost per result is smaller than. So let's say for our business, as long as our cost per lead or cost per sale is beneath £40, we're really happy with that result. That's a great result. We're happy to keep scaling. Then you can go ahead and set it up like this. Obviously, this is going to massively depend on your business. So that will be the conditions. And then we've got time range. Now, this part is really important. The default is the maximum. So this is saying over what time period will these conditions be looked at. Oh, by the way, we've got lifetime impressions over 8,000. That's like a default that's put in. I haven't manually put that in, it's put in by standard. You can choose to remove that as a filter if you want to. But that's just to stop these rules being triggered like immediately, basically. Okay, so the time range is, this is the important one, the cost per result, less than £40. Over what time period do we want to look at this? Now, I think if we're setting up something like this is not a good option, 37 months, because you could have a scenario where your cost per result over the 37 months to the 3 years is on average less than £40, but maybe in the last week it's been like £200, and Meta would still be scaling your budget just because they've got so much historical data and it's worked out as an average over the time period. So I think you definitely want to decrease this. This is absolutely going to depend on your business. I might say something like 7 days is a good time period. You could go with something significantly smaller than that. It could just be yesterday. This will depend on how much conversion volume. So if you generate loads and loads of conversions, like hundreds a day, even dozens a day, then you want to shrink this time frame. If you only generate a handful of conversions a week, then you want to extend this time frame. Okay, so just wanted to mention that because I think that's an important thing where I've seen people be like, hang on, the last week my campaign's performing terribly and Meta's still scaling based on this automated rule. It's like, well, what's the time range? It's because the campaign did perform really well 2 years ago, and that's dragging down the averages. Scheduled, continuously, daily, custom. I think daily makes a load of sense around midnight, so I'm going to leave it at that. And then you can say, look, I want to get notifications. Then we would just need to give this rule a name. So what have we got here? So we could say 3% scaling, CPR less than £40. Something like that, just so you know how it works, and then you can go ahead and click create. Now that's one automated rule, but we could come back in and click create new rule, and we could say, I want to do the exact same, but I want to decrease the daily budget. So I want to decrease it by 3%. I mean, obviously you could do different percentages. I never want to spend less than £100 a day. I'm going to do once daily again. So in this case, if the cost per result is greater than, say, £50, Anything below £40 is great. 40 to 50 is acceptable. Anything above 50 is like, no, turn it off, or decrease it, I should say. Then we could come and set it up like this. Again, we want to change the time frame, and then boom, we've got an alternative where we've got a 3% decrease. And you could do the same thing for turning campaigns off. You're like, look, if our cost per result gets over this amount, turn it off. Or if our frequency gets over a 7, turn this ad off. You can do this at the ad level, the ad set level, or the campaign level. So you can get really quite clever and do a lot of things. You can have ad sets turn off automatically when there's fatigue. Because look, if we look at the different conditions, if I delete that out and look to add in another one, if we look at all these different conditions, think about what the flexibility this gives you. Turn it off when you've spent a certain amount. Based on ROAS, not just cost per result. So, okay, turn this off, increase the budget if our ROAS is over a certain amount, decrease the budget if our ROAS is under a certain amount. There are loads of other options that you can have a good play with and think about, okay, this applies to our business, this doesn't, lots of different things. But this can really help if you've got lots of different campaigns, and also, like I said, if you're just a little bit too trigger happy, to get your budget being spent more efficiently. Yes, I want you to scale and spend more when my campaigns are doing well. Yes, I want you to spend less and scale back when my campaigns aren't doing very well. And I want you to turn them off if they really, really aren't doing very well. All sorts of things and fun you can have with automated rules, and definitely something that advanced advertisers play around with a lot. If you do go and set up a whole bunch, just make sure you check in semi-regularly to make sure that campaigns are actually being treated how you want them to treat. Because I have seen scenarios where you've got a dozen different rules operating and things can become a little bit complicated and things happen. The advertiser's like, wait, hang on, I didn't opt for that. And you're like, well, actually, look at how your rule's set up. It's done. But, done well, it's certainly a great tool. Now, this video has all been about meta ads, settings and features that not a lot of meta advertisers know about and even fewer aren't using. Now, there's something in the meta ad space that a lot of advertisers have heard about, but they certainly don't understand because there's an enormous amount of misinformation flying around about it, and that's Andromeda. I've done a full video explaining what Andromeda actually is that you can check out right here, because there are so many people panicking right now, making adjustments they don't need to make, not making the adjustments they do need to make to adapt to meta ads in an Andromeda world, which is certainly what we are in right now. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and check this out.